In the last video I did just a short thing about values, and one of the things I think that's important is that the final value that I mentioned was personal care, self-care, and I just wanted to sort of do a very short thing on the idea that that therapy is a kind of 20th century or 21st century kind of malaise is absolute nonsense. Since what we call civilization has been around, the Greeks were know thyself. The Delphic Oracle was doing a know thyself thing, which was about kind of unpacking what was going on for you. What were you noticing about your own life, sort of, and how you could actually take control of that. Socrates talks about, the unexamined life is the life not worth living. So that he was really about this. So the philosophers were already onto this stuff, how it could benefit you personally to actually start noticing, taking care, taking action. I've got a list of quotes here, so that I also use, because I think that some people think this is a bit of navel gazing, or it's a kind of sign of weakness, or that we should just be able to pull our socks up. You don't need to pull your socks up. So I think, like the Buddha said, what we think we become. Now, pretty early days for somebody, and that is the case actually. We now know in the last 20 years about the brain's neuroplasticity, and how that you can actually build new neural pathways. We're not in constant decline. We can actually renew. And so, he was already onto the what we think we become, because we can also in that process be reprogramming ourselves all the time. So if you think really negatively, then the consequences of that are that you will think more negatively. The brain gets hungry for the negative. So if you can actually prevent yourself from always seeking the negative, and find a little nugget of positive in something, I think that's a really helpful thing, and because you can begin to grow that, and then one compensates for the other. So Epictetus, who was another Greek, there were loads of Greek guys all out there navel gazing or not, and he is regarded as the father of cognitive behavioral therapy. He is often quoted, his work is often quoted. So he says, men are disturbed not by things, but of the view they take of them. And I think that that's right. If we can actually look at something, and if we find it offensive, then it influences our mood. We don't need to find it offensive. We can just think, actually, it's of no consequence to me. Or you can just think, not my monkeys, not my circus. You can make choices about how you respond to things. And that's one of the things about the kind of Greek philosophical schools and the Buddhist schools, is that we're all about autonomy and your own sense of agency. When you don't have a sense of agency, you think that the world is happening to you, and that you're not a participant. And I think that that's really a tricky place from which to heal, because you have to understand that you are influencing things that are happening to you. So the world is not just happening to you, you are creating that world as well. So a person thinks, or he or she is, and that's a biblical quotation. And I think that is, again, these quotes are just about how your cognitions, how your thinking actually influences what happens next, what your behavior is, and also the quality of your life. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Good old Willie Shakespeare. And then Albert Ellis, who's another psychotherapist, we disturb ourselves. We are actually responsible for disturbing ourselves, and that it is actually unnecessary to do so. So I think that's it's really interesting to think about that. But your own self-care starts with the kind of videos that I've been doing on psychoeducation, because I'm not your therapist. I'm just some woman sitting and doing who's got some ideas about this stuff, and I've been doing it for quite a long time. So I don't know. I think that if you can pay attention, like the noticing is really a big deal. Once you start to notice, it's really difficult to stop noticing. You know, you change your own trajectory if you actually start noticing stuff. So noticing the language that you use when you're anxious, or how did you create that thought, because you can't really create a thought without language. So being sort of in a position where you were willing to actually think about changing that, because we get into these habits, we get into these cyclical habits. The unhelpful thinking styles video that I did was really about that. We've over our lives we've been becoming, and in the becoming we've learned behaviors that have actually had a payoff. So they have served us, but they're no longer necessarily serving us. So thinking about the language that you're using and whether or not you're able to change that, I think that can be really helpful. Anyhow, I thought I'd just do a bit about these other guys. I'm going to go in search of lots of other Scottish women who've got great quotes.